Here we go. Here we go. Tom, we made it. We did it.
We got through all the technical hurdles, so it's great to
I
be here.
know. I know. I know. I mean, Mercury was in retrograde when you were supposed to come on last time or whatever, and you ended up getting stuck in Bali. I mean, there are far worse places in the world to get stuck in.
Yeah, it was a beautiful problem to have.
Exactly, exactly. So this we have, I mean, we normally have like 20, 30. It's like up to like 50 sometimes of us. This is our Soul Star community, and this was a beautiful community that has been birthed after the pandemic in 2020. It's a sacred space where people can share and grow, and I love to spread just love and information from different teachers and mentors that are real, that have gone through the realness and have found their North Star for inspiration, for it may be something that is within you that can awaken one of us. And just there's no such thing as coincidences. We're all connected. So when I connected with you through our friend Ashley, and we had our Zoom, it was just um, for me, it felt so right to ask you to be a guest here and to lead our beautiful community in whatever it is that you do. But I really would love for you to, you know, tell a little bit about yourself and what it is that you do and, what we're going to be doing today, even though it's going to be a short journey. If anybody wants to stay on a little bit longer, you can, but we respect your time and everything like that. So thank you also for waking up super duper 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 early. You're all the way on the other side of the world. What part of Australia do you live in?
I'm in Bondi, which is in Sydney, which is in Australia. So yeah, we're 5:30 in the morning, just after 5:30, but it's all good. I normally wake up at this time anyway.
Beautiful, beautiful. So can you tell our viewers and our listeners and our soul stars a little bit about yourself and what they can experience today?
Hmm. Well, currently, present day, I'm a meditation teacher, retreat host, speaker, author. I produced a film called The Portal. And many years ago, before all of that, I was a broker in finance. So you could have got two worlds that are so extremely different. So I lived a very much Jordan Belfort from the Wolf of Wall Street lifestyle. That was on a trading room floor, trading millions and billions of dollars worth of swaps and bonds on international markets. And the lifestyle, the behavioral patterns, the way of thinking really led me to a dark night of the soul. And I think that was the universe really sort of guiding me. And this is the thing I found about crisis and why I made a film about crisis is that crisis is an opportunity and it's only a design of the universe to move us in the direction that we're meant to be moving in and away from the path we're currently on. It's a really fascinating phenomenon I started to study more and more of these mechanics, whether it's collectively as a civilization and we're getting our own crisis now as a humanity to guide us into another direction. Individually, it might be in your relationship, it might be in your business, it might be in your personal health. It's usually a mechanism of evolution to move us in another direction. And the pain and suffering we experience is that resistance to it. So I was so resistant to it. And so I had so much pain and suffering because I just couldn't see the message in it. But these days, having come through that, and I call it crisis to chrysalis, I'm now able to mentor a lot of people and helping them see the crisis as something that is guiding them, and how we have to sort of assess that crisis is in what direction is it trying to guide us, and that's the important thing. So that's what I do a lot of these days is mentoring, but also giving people the mechanisms, the tools, and the techniques to help them move through that, because sometimes we have to break through the calcification, the rigidity
Mhm.
of the ego structure that's holding on to the current status quo that just wants to stay in that state of suffering and misery rather than change. And I think Tim Ferriss once said that people would rather be unhappy than change, which was pretty much the way I was living as well.
Exactly. There's something, I practice family constellation. I'm a facilitator in family constellation, systemic constellation, and organizational. And it's really interesting. What I realized throughout the study with the work that for 25 years, I'm in the personal development world. But what I realized with constellation work also is people are more comfortable with suffering than they are with actually happiness.
Yeah.
They're not comfortable being happy.
Yeah.
They're more comfortable being, there's a hidden loyalty there, which really reminds me of the quote by Tim Ferriss that you just mentioned.
There's a familiarity in it. We get so comfortable, and I liken it to wearing these really worn out old joggers or slippers or something that's really comfortable. And then you go get those new shoes, and the new shoes are amazing. They're brand new. There's no holes in them, and yet they're so uncomfortable. It's like, oh, I'd rather go back to the old ones. And we're just so familiar with the state that we're in. And I was like that. I hadn't realized how familiar I'd become to darkness, and how familiar I'd become to living with anxiety, and how familiar I'd become to living with guilt and shame and self-loathing. It just become part of the cloak that I wore. And it's almost like if you take that off, then you feel naked and exposed, and it's so uncomfortable for people in our world currently, because of, in the Vedic worldview, we see that we're in a period of time that's a 10,000 year arc,
Mm-hmm.
or epoch that we're in, called Kali Yuga. And it's a time that we've so familiarized to having addiction and greed and lust and desire and shame and guilt and self-loathing and anxiety and fear and regret. So all these things are just really familiar states for us. And to be just in joy and bliss and love and peace is such an alien, discomforting experience for us, that we just, if we get glimpses of it, we kind of don't feel like we're worthy of it.
That's so true. That's so true. Unless I would wear an uncomfortable pair of like couture shoes. I would be okay with that for a little bit. And then maybe I'll try on my old slippers,
Yeah,
or I could put one couture and then one old
yeah.
slipper on.
Just looks a bit weird, doesn't it?
Just to ease it in, just to ease it in. That's the only way. But it's, I mean, really, if we look at it as that every single challenge in our life that we go through is just one step closer to our own spiritual couture of what we came here, our own magic. So Tom and I are going to do a podcast as well. We're going to be recording some things, but he's generously is going to lead you on what he does best, is a little meditation journey, I believe.
Yeah.
And that's his Christmas and holiday gift to you all. And this is our last Soul Star of 2024. We're going to begin again next year, but what an amazing gift that you're giving us, for the way we're closing out. So thank you for being here with us.
My pleasure. So I'm going to take you through a 3-phase meditation. My good friend Vishen Vishen Lakiani from Mind Valley, he has a 6-phase meditation. This one I came up with is a 3-phase meditation. So it's in the first phase we're going to go into is to de-excite the nervous system. And we're going to use a simple technique of centering the mind to calm the nervous system so that we can get into a quieter state. If we're frazzled and busy and having lots of thoughts and our nervous system's overstimulated, then it's very hard to get into stage 2 of that meditation. So stage 1 is we de-excite the nervous system. Stage 2 is we connect to our heart. We start to realize that we have this incredible vibrational center within us that is just bursting with this lightness and this joy. And after we connect into our heart, we then start to share what we start to tap into, this incredible frequency, and we start to share that and see that same resonance and potential within everyone else. We no longer see everyone in this subjective viewpoint, whether that's a good person or a bad person, or this is a person that I like or a person that I don't like. We actually see this unification and commonality as we connect into our heart and their heart. So it's a really beautiful process that hopefully you'll get something out of to finish the year off and lead you into 2025 with. So we're going to go for, let's have a quick look at the time. I need my glasses because I'm getting old. Okay, we've got about 12 minutes. So it's going to be a 10-minute meditation. So what I would suggest is that you get a comfortable chair. I always recommend with meditation, a lot of people like to be in lotus with their mudras and all sorts of things. I just recommend being comfortable. That's the main starting point. So sitting in a chair with your back upright, and you can have legs crossed if that's comfortable for you. Otherwise, just feet on the ground. So let's close our eyes. We always want to de-excite our sensory stimuli, and the first thing we can do is closing our eyes. And we're going to start to notice as we sit there in a comfortable chair, there's just a natural breath just moving in and out of your body. I want you to notice how this ebb and flow, and it happens day and night, 24/7, from the moment you came out of the womb, just goes in and out. And I want you to notice as it goes in and out of your body that it passes through your nostrils. I want you to notice as it moves in and out of your nostrils, this ebb and flow in and out, that there's a very slight cooling effect around the rim of the nostril. I want you to notice how when the air brushes the moisture on the skin just inside the rim of your nostrils, it slightly cools the skin. It's very so subtle. There's just a gentle caressing of moisture inside the rim of the nostril, and that cools the skin down. You just keep your attention on that cool skin around the rim of the nostril. And whenever the mind tries to drift away, I want you to just be steadfast. Flex a little bit of muscle. Say, no, you don't. We're just staying here on this single point. And the mind will get bored, it will drift away, but you want to bring it back there. The meditation's bringing it back. Just keep it on that single point. And just keep staying there with the attention on that one single point. Cool skin around the rim of the nostril. Everything else just melts away. There's no other reality, no other existence than just this single point. It's an effortless breath. Don't force the breath. Just keep a very simple, gentle breath. The body will start to slow down. And now, as the mind is becoming calmer and more settled, we're going to move our attention from the nostrils down into the heart center. This is a space just behind the chest plate. And I want you to visualize in your chest cavity a vast, open, spacious void, the size of the universe. This whole vast center inside your chest. A big, spacious emptiness, and suspended in that center of that spacious void is a golden orb of light, a bit like the sun, the size of a softball or grapefruit. It's a beautiful golden aura of loving light. Just visualize now a golden aura of loving light. And it's emanating this radiance of loving light. And the radiance and luminosity of this heart space, this lightness and lovingness. It spreads through the body, spreading this golden aura of loving light down through the abdomen, just filling the whole area with a beautiful, warm, soft, golden glow like treacle. It spreads down through the groin, the hips, down into both of the legs, all the way down through, past the knees, into the lower region of the legs, through the ankles and down into the feet, to the very ends of your toes. The whole body in the lower section is filled with this beautiful golden aura of loving light. And the luminosity and lovingness from the heart space is so radiant and pure, it spreads up through the chest, up through and out the shoulders and down into the arms, filling all the spaciousness within the upper chest and the arms, down through the through the elbows, through the wrist, into the fingertips, all filled with golden, loving light. It spreads up through the neck, filling the neck and into the head with this beautiful golden aura of loving light. Now feeling your whole body filled with this incredible lightness and lovingness of being. Your whole body is a golden aura of loving light. And feel the lightness as just purity, golden, pure, loving light inside you. Nothing else. And this aura is so strong and so radiant, it pierces through the pores of your skin and starts to create a golden, shimmering radiance around you, like a shield of loving light. You're like a sparkling, radiant vessel, nothing more than pure, radiant, loving light. No story, no future, no past, just pure, golden, loving light. And now we shift our attention to others, and we start to see within each and every other person that same golden aura of loving light. And whether or not they see that, it's completely irrelevant. We just see golden aura of loving light. Every person we come into contact with, we see them for the aura of golden loving light. That which is in us is also in them, the divine essence. We let go of their stories, their past, their histories, their traumas, all the things that shape them, and we just see them for the purity of who they are. We feel that interconnectedness of pure golden loving light, the source of all, the divine essence. We feel and see the simplicity of the world now. We feel the lightness of being, knowing that we're reconnecting to our true nature and seeing the true nature of others. We feel that unity with not just all of humanity, but the cosmos itself. And know that this here lies our freedom, our liberation, to just simply be in the radiance of pure golden loving light. And just putting your hands to your hearts, And just simply finishing with three simple words: I am that. And when you're ready, just slowly opening the eyes. Welcome back, everyone.
Thank you for that. That was beautiful.
Something you can do on a daily basis. It doesn't take long. You can reduce that down to 5-10 minutes, and yeah, it's just about reconnecting. There's a beautiful saying: if you can hold it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. So our thoughts become our reality, and it's just a matter of shifting our thoughts to recreate a new reality.
Yeah. We are the artist, the director, producer of our lives. That was beautiful. Thank you, Tom. Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful meditation. I'm going to just pause. Well, yeah. All right. So here we go. And we're back, Tom. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me along today. It's really an honor, and I'm looking forward to our conversation together.
Me too. Me too. I know that we wanted to connect in the past, and everything's in divine timing. We're closing out 2024 of this is going to be the last podcast for the year on Janet Namaste. And what a beautiful way to end the year of like this balance of divine masculine and divine feminine on one side of the world and another side of the world.
Yeah,
So
and you're in winter, I'm in summer. We're in all these polarities at the moment.
oh my God, that's right. That's right. It's, I mean, isn't that what life is all about, right? The law of polarity anyway.
Yeah.
Amazing. So I just want to tell, we began this podcast originally like of bringing it out to the Soul Star community, which is something that it's a membership that I brought out for people globally. And you so generously shared a meditation that everybody just now heard. But I do want to introduce you to the world as we delve deeper into your bio and what brought you onto this journey of your purpose. And I'm just going to read your bio that you spent 26 years, probably even more than that, or no, 26 years in finance markets as one of Australia's leading bonds and swap brokers. And you discovered meditation in the early stages of your career when the anxiety and chaos, when you yourself had, I guess, what you shared before, the dark night of the soul. And that in itself was that wake-up call that brought you into the awakening of your true self, transformed your world, and you are transforming hundreds of people worldwide with your gift. So you are also the founder of the Stillness Project, a global movement to inspire billions of people to actually sit in stillness daily. That is amazing, because right before we started recording this, we were talking about multitasking as opposed to doing one thing at a time, and what a gift it is to sit in stillness. You are passionate about reducing stress and chaos in people's lives, and your ongoing work and transformational leadership, which is what you do, is coaching oh wow, you coach and you do corporate training as well, which is incredible, with Amazon, with all different consulting group, Oracle, Harvard Business School. I mean, the list goes on and on. UBS, some of these I actually interviewed when I graduated computer programming school. It's but you have 6 books published, and you have produced an incredible documentary film, which I had the privilege to watch, The Portal, which I really, really enjoyed. And if you have not watched or hear this particular documentary, you can go on Tom's website and you'll get the link to it. And I think anyone can watch it. And it really is very inspiring, even if you are really in the self-development and meditation world. There is always something there that we can relate to and awaken within. So thank you for bringing that gift out to so many people. So
Thank
Welcome
you.
to the show again, number 3 or 4 times that I said that, but you're very welcomed.
Yeah, it's great to be here.
Amazing. So if you could tell, I'd love to hear your story of actually of the Tom's Great Awakening.
Mm. Yeah, so I think before, for most people anyway, certainly was in my case, before a great awakening, some sort of huge epiphany or what we call a chrysalis. That's this alchemization of your being from one thing to another. There's usually quite a dark episode or period, a challenging time or a crisis. And that was definitely the case for me. And what that looked like for me was I was a broker on a trading room floor, and it was late 80s, early 90s, and I got swept into the culture of that industry, which was a lot of drugs, drinking, partying, really extreme hedonism and narcissism, this self-obsession and this constant desire to satiate, and fulfill this incredible appetite for more. And that led me down into a really dark place. Eventually a lot of anxiety and panic attacks, depression, a lot of self-loathing, a lot of guilt and shame and all sorts of things that came with that type of behavior. And I just didn't realize, but I was getting further and further away from my North Star, which is this guiding light that's there to sort of move you in a path that's your dharma, your life purpose. And that led to this sort of really ultimately a nervous breakdown. I was diagnosed by doctors and
Mm.
psychiatrists, and I was put on medication, and I was, suicide ideation. It was a pretty messy time. I had to leave work and found it really hard to even leave the house. And there was a lot of real dark suffering. But that's when I came across, interestingly, meditation. I was sitting at home watching TV, and there's a documentary about a property developer. And he talked about how he used this transcendental meditation technique, and they showed him sitting in a suit on a chair meditating using this mantra-based meditation. And it was like a light bulb moment for me. So it was really like the universe kind of dangling this carrot saying, look, now that we've got you at your weakest moment, now that we've kind of beaten you into submission, we're seeing if you can sort of break through. And so that was that bifurcation moment of breakdown or breakthrough. And that's when I came across the meditation. I learned the meditation. It was an absolute game changer for me. And I realized that everything that I was craving and looking for in the outside world was actually something that I was looking for that I should have been looking in the inside world. And so then I became a very disciplined and dedicated meditator, doing it every day, twice a day, went on a lot of retreats. But I continued on as a broker. So I went back to work and continued on for 16 more years, but just no more drugs, drinking and partying. And I became very successful, and eventually left the career to finally, when I realized that my purpose in life was to do more than quarter point movements on the 10-year bond, was to actually go and start teaching meditation and coaching and running retreats. So that's where I am today.
That's amazing. I mean, how did your colleagues in the finance world during that time react when you first started embracing meditation? Did you bring it into the workplace?
No, not at all. I was, it's a very hard
You
and
know,
judgmental industry.
yes,
It's gone
yes.
around a little bit, but back then it was pretty brutal. It was very hardcore. So I kept it very quiet. I mean, it was really, really challenging. It was, people were aware that I was taking mental health leave and that I was not in a good way. And, back in those days, particularly in that very male dominated industry, you didn't talk about things like
Right.
that. You just, you didn't even take a sick day. Like, we would be out till 5 in the morning and then turn up to work. No one took sick days. If you need to be literally on your deathbed, and then they'd probably accept without ridicule that you could have that day off. So it was pretty tough industry. So yeah, I kept it pretty quiet, and over time, people started to notice things me changing. I wasn't into doing the same sort of late night shenanigans that everyone else was still doing, or most of the industry was still doing. Not everyone, but so over time, it sort of seeped out, and they realized there was something a bit different. And then, over time, there was a great deal of respect eventually for the path that I was on. Anytime when we create a point of difference, it's whether it's in a relationship individually with you and your partner, or whether it's in a community that you're in where you're seen as the strange one, the odd one. It always fractures the relationship to some degree, because relationships thrive on commonality and connection.
Of
And there I
course.
was doing things very different. So it was quite challenging initially, for sure.
You know what? It brings me to a point that I think in a way, it's a crisis. It's like like it's a mental health crisis in a sense, because people think that they have the coping mechanisms, or maybe it's systemic that you just don't speak about those kind of things, or maybe it's a machoism of, especially that was like very male dominated. Like, I live near Wall Street, 20 minutes away from Wall Street. And I remember that time also, the Wolf of Wall Street kind of like, era as well. Everybody wanted to be a trader, everybody wanted to be a broker. And it was so fast paced and such like the highs of the adrenaline and but nobody realizes you don't rest. And when you don't rest and your brainwaves don't go into like the beta state, or even when you're going into the REM sleep, that's when you're actually processing the trauma. You just keep on going and going and going and going. But it's the tool that you found, it was almost like heaven sent, like it was
Yeah.
God's breadcrumb that opened up that for you, because um if not, it's just such a vicious cycle that people don't even realize that there are other choices, because they're so embodied or in that matrix, if that makes sense. And I hope and I pray and I feel like now there's an awakening to it, that it's more mainstream, more accepting. But back then, that's why I asked you how your colleagues reacted, because it was definitely like taboo and weird.
Yeah, absolutely. And we talked about this before the call about how people will stay in suffering for so long. We've really
Hmm.
normalized to substandard, mediocre ways of living in anxiety and addiction and guilt and shame and fear and anger and regret. So it's this, we're so normalized into these particular states that we can be in them for long, long periods of time, and the options for happiness and joy and peace and lightness, it can be ignored for a long, long time, until we almost get to a point where it becomes the universe kind of like bashes it into us. It's like, hey, you've got to find your higher self and connect to your divine nature, your true essence, your inner peace, and it creates this turbulence. I find that the further off path we get, the more turbulent the universe sends the signals, so that we eventually start listening. It's like it has to turn up the volume. Oh, they can't hear it, we need to turn it up louder. They still can't hear it, we need to turn it up louder. And then eventually, if we still ignore it, the universe it never gives up on us. It's really quite fascinating. I've learned this, that it will just make it more and more extreme. And that's collectively as a civilization where we're at, and all of our pains and sufferings as a society, as a civilization, is really the universe saying, guys, you're just not getting it. Like, we're trying to tell you there's another path and you just don't get it. And it does that individually, it does that as a relationship, it does that as a business, it does that as a civilization. It's quite phenomenal when you start seeing the messaging coming through on the divine intelligence.
And so true. It's like God's whispers, like, or
Mm.
those wake up calls. First, it comes as a whisper, and if you're deflecting, you're projecting, you know, um, then it'll come. It's you're not going to get it. You're going to be busy with something else, and then it comes in as a big nudge, and then it's just going to be where you trip and you fall on your face, and you're like,
Mhm.
oh, shit, I heard the call before and I just didn't listen to it. I knew that, but I just didn't listen to it. And it's like this program, and I'm a Capricorn. I hit it. There's goals. I hit it. Boom. When's the next one? Goal. Hit it. Next. But it's intense. In fact, we never like it's that practice between the inhale and exhale, the pause. That's where I feel the answers. Like for me, that's where I find them. At least, that's where I think that those nudges, that those signals. And I think it's incredible with the meditation practice that you found at that age, because that was really a gift. Like it was like resurrection of Tom.
Yeah, yeah, it really was a big alchemy and a big shift. And
Yeah.
there's a beautiful quote: a rishi only takes a hint. And what that means is that a rishi being a wise one that can see, one that is awake and much more in tune to that intelligence that's guiding and nurturing us. And the hint part is that we don't need cataclysmic events before we act and change. And it's like Aikido moves. The Aikido move is actually ahead of the actual requirement to move. They're sort of sensing the need to move before they have to move. And my dad, he was a great sailor. He's passed now, beautiful man, and he used to take me out sailing, and he'd teach me how to read the wind And what he would teach me was that the wind, if it was starting to change ahead of us, he'd teach me how to see the water starting to ruffle. So see over there about 50 to 100 meters, see how the water's starting to change. That means the wind direction's at that point different than the current wind direction. So we need to start getting ready to tack and change before the wind comes and hits us. And that way we're going to be ahead of the change. And I liken that so much to life. It's almost like, can I preempt the need to change and adapt before I even get any trace of karmic residue from the universe that's saying, don't do that, don't go that way. I'm going to send you a signal, but you actually have tuned in already. And so we get this hint that precedes or is a prelude to the actual event that actually is the cataclysmic crash, that sort of the thing that's going to guide us. And so we have this much more effortless path. And we have this path that becomes this beautiful, gentle meander, and like a keto, that we move with the sway of life. And we don't have these huge bombardments of turbulence and chaos. And so when I see a lot of turbulence and chaos in someone's life that I'm working with, it's like, okay, well, we just need to be a little bit more adaptable and a little bit more fluid in our ability to move with these machinations of life and circumstances of life.
That's really beautiful. It's like dancing no matter what the rhythm is. It's before the storm comes, and then you're just like, you could just speed up the tempo and dance a little faster, but you're with it. You're not against it. It's
Yeah, I love
really,
that. Love that analogy.
yeah.
While you were saying that, I was just thinking, I'm not a dancer. Trust me, I'm a terrible dancer. But um,
But you're a
if you,
sailor.
but if you watch, when the partner says, take my lead, so they're like
Yes.
listening and they're moving before they even need to move. You know what I mean?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And who's leading? The universe is leading.
The leading universe is leading, yeah. So we're trying to control it so much, and
Yeah.
this is the thing. I was so rigidly trying to control outcomes in my life, but I've learned so much more to just like almost have this wry smile on my face and just like, what next, universe? Guide me and let me flow with you and be in a dance with the universe.
No, that's absolutely beautiful. What were like the first noticeable changes you experienced in your life after finding transcendental meditation?
Yeah, it was quite significant. The first week was a bit uncomfortable, and that's
Mm.
because it's the analogy I like to use is that you can have a house that, and I've done 4 of these renovations. We used to take old homes, and then my wife and I would go in and start renovating the house. And so you got a old home that's kind of just, it's okay, it's livable. But then we would come in, and day one, literally, there's just mayhem. There's hammers and saws and things getting chucked out, and fridges and sinks being chucked out, and cupboards removed, and that first week of renovations is usually the most turbulent. It's when the most change is happening. And that's what it was like for me. My body was in a pretty bad way after 10 years of really extreme abuse. And so
Wow.
that first week was like a lot of like shifting and changing and swirling, because when we put our body into deep rest, that happens in Vedic meditation or transcendental meditation. And the whole point of this meditation is different from chakras and guided meditations and visualizations. This one is all about put your body into deep rest and let your body do the reorganizing and restructuring. And so for me, there was a lot of moving around, but the big thing that I really noticed was that I could sleep, and had the worst insomnia because my body was in the sympathetic nervous system 24/7. And then when the meditation came into my life, it shifted into the parasympathetic nervous system like very, very quickly and sustainably over long periods of time. So my body was trying to catch up on an immense amount of accumulated fatigue. So I was falling asleep left, right, and center, which was really beautiful because it was my body's way of finally saying, okay, it's time for you to heal, and it's time for you to rest and to slow down. And it was almost like the foot coming off the throttle of cortisol. And in my body
Right.
starting to experience what life is like without cortisol, and it kind of comes to a grinding halt. So the first few weeks I was really, really tired, which is, if we're tired, we want to feel tired. No one allows ourselves to feel tired anymore because we have 3 shots of coffee every morning just to get going.
Yeah.
And then we're on our phones all night watching TikTok reels of people dancing.
Yes. Or people sailing.
People
No.
sailing, dancing.
No, I mean, that's so true. That's so true. It's like it's almost so foreign for them to actually relax and sleep. Relaxation sometimes becomes uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah, it allows us to feel something, and a lot of people don't want to feel anything anymore. It's funny, I was watching a show. I was talking to my family the other night. We're watching there's a, I think it was called Landman. It's a show in America, and the wife was having a bit of a meltdown, and it was suggested that she just pop one of those Xanaxes that you've got. And it was interesting
Yep.
because it was this natural instinct. Oh, I'm feeling something uncomfortable. I don't want to feel uncomfortable. Let's take a tablet. And I know, not to be judgmental, I know this is quite a big thing in America where, we don't want to feel those uncomfortable sensations. So let's pop some pills and maybe that will make the discomfort go away. As opposed to let's just sit in that and assess, why am I feeling that way? And is that okay to feel that way? Yeah, it's okay to feel that way. What is that? Well, it's just sensations in the body. What's the problem with that? And so we need to start being able to get back to allowing ourselves to be present with feelings.
Oh my God, and to be comfortable with it. And I think it's important like to start teaching the children. Maybe, in America, like that culture is
Yeah.
already of, I mean, big pharma, right? It's who runs the show here, but it's there that's like the instant gratification or the
Yeah.
instant silencer, like that's fine, but then it numbs you out, you don't feel, and then people then are seeking at different ages. And what do people all seek? The number one thing is like love, but it's thinking that it's from exterior things. But when you're numbed out and your
Mm.
vibration is numb, that's what you're wondering why it's not coming to you. But that's because it's not that it's flatline by no means, but it's that the volume is so low that what is meant to come to you doesn't even have a place to land, because your vessel is completely filled up with just in other kinds of noise, other kinds of noise. And it's such a shame, it's such a shame. But I want to segue a little bit into talking about where the magic is, um, where there is such um, I think it's just an incredible program that you did with a project. And I want everyone to know about the stillness projects and what inspired you to actually create that and to awaken humanity with that. I think it's absolutely brilliant, brilliant.
Yeah, I was blown away when I discovered the technique of meditation. So, in essence, and there's many different ways to get to that state. I just found that this one in Transcendental Meditation, Vedic meditation, where they use these particular mantras to take the mind deeper and deeper. And eventually, when the mind gets to the very source of thought, which is pure consciousness itself, the level of bliss at that point is so high that the mind foregoes the charm and the inclination to think. So now we've dropped into samadhi, which means sama means same and di means intellect. So same intellect. The intellect is now still, it's not changing with a fluctuation of thought. So thoughts means fluctuations in our nervous system, fluctuations in our biochemistry, fluctuations in our physiology. And that's why we think, because we want those sensations happening. So when we get to samadhi, where the mind is now satiated completely in bliss, it becomes still. And when the mind becomes still while we're awake, the body's level of rest and stillness is 4 times to 5 times deeper than when we're asleep. It's a phenomenally powerful healing state that happens physiologically more than anything. And I was just blown away at how quickly so many of my ailments, from constant colds and viruses, being in a riddled state of anxiety and panic attacks, depression, agoraphobia, insomnia, all of that melted away within days and weeks, like really, really quickly. And I'm like, this is crazy. This is a 5,000-year-old technique that people have been using for 5,000 years. It stood the test of time. This is mind blowing. And I just thought that this was the antidote to so many of the world's problems. That you simply sit in a chair, close your eyes. You can do it in a car, you can do it in a park, you can do it on a train, on a bus. You can do it anywhere once you learn the technique of repeating this sound inside your head and letting the mantra do the work for you. And so I became very passionate about this. I thought, well, if I can get more people doing this, then I can make a difference in the world. And so I started to visualize, what does the world look like if we have people that are connected to their self, that are awake to the reality, the machinations of life, to the intelligence within life? And what we got people that are out of those stress responses that are happening. And Dr. Bruce Lipton from Stanford University Medical School says that
Mhm.
95% of all sickness is a result of stress. So if we want to heal 95% of the world's population, we just have to remove the stress response. And so I created the Stillness Project with a vision and a mission, to inspire 1 billion people to meditate daily. And I guess that's really why I'm here today, is part of that, to just to let people know that stillness, that means with your eyes closed, your body no longer in movement. And stillness really is the absence of motion, and that's mental and physiological. And so I find that, and people say to me, "Oh, I meditate while I'm walking. I meditate while I'm swimming." I mean, look, it's still can be a meditation, but we're not in
Yes.
stillness. So stillness is something that people struggle with because we're in a society that conditions us, like you said, to distraction. And everything, whether it's medication or self-medication, and self-medication can be scrolling through TikTok and Instagram, it can be watching Netflix, it can be reading, even listening to podcasts, it can be listening to Spotify, going to the gym, it can be, everything is in some way in our society, caffeine, drinking, alcohol, TV, it's all a constant distraction from, are you able to sit still? And that is
Abs-
when we start to have introspection and deep assessment. You know, I had no idea how much of an asshole I was until I started sitting in stillness. And we have to be uncomfortable with that sometimes for the ability for us to transform and grow.
I never realized how almost like, I know it sounds crazy, but almost like a nothingness that I am,
Yeah.
or, or part of the whole when I am in the stillness.
Yeah.
It's,
That's the one thing I teach my students. Are you ready to be no thing? Are you ready to be no story? Are you ready to be nowhere?
oh, wow. Well, and I remember when that first happened to me, it was first shocking because then your natural like go push that we've been so programmed to do, you want to snap out of it for a second because it's not to have control. But then when you actually surrender, the challenge was coming back and working with those, and it's not a judgment, it's not a judgment at all, working with those of with that are still perhaps not realizing that they have it all inside of them already. I'm like, can't you just see? Like it's already inside of you. You have those red shoes, like in the Wizard of Oz. You have them. It's the power is inside of you. It always was. So it's that beautiful pause is that's where the magic is. Like it really is in that stillness. I love how you said that. There people can do walking meditation, color meditation, because yes, it gets you out of the left and right brain and you're just
Mhm.
in the moment. But that stillness and that meditation that I'm going to share with our listeners today, that you brought our soul stars in today, it just takes a few minutes. And what's a few minutes of your life just bringing back to yourself? That's it was beautiful. It really was.
I feel I see so much pain and suffering in the world, and one of the big
Mhm.
things that's really emerging now is this idea of I'm triggered. You've triggered
Right.
me. You know, your words have upset me. And look, it's good in some ways because it means that the world's becoming hopefully a better place because we are saying, hey, that's not okay, and we need that. We need that level of correction to be happening where things have been going on for a long time that weren't okay. But we also want to be careful that we don't get so sensitive to other people's words and actions that we just simply can't live and exist anymore. And
Right.
we're in a state of misery, and that's because we've lost a sense of identity, where our identity is based upon the feedback loop that we're getting from the rest of the world, the comments, the likes, or the information flow that other people are giving to us, as opposed to connect with your real truth, your sovereignty, and your level of empowerment is that I'm able to be in the world in a deep sense of knowingness that I'm not my personality, I'm not my story, I'm not my history, I'm not my culture, I'm not my civilization even. I'm actually a divine essence that's currently encased in some matter of physicality and a software that's in the brain. And so stillness helps us find that and free us from the turbulence of life around us.
Yeah, it's so true. And what do you think is the biggest misconception that people have of incorporating that stillness into their lives?
I think a lot of people, the feedback I get is two things. One is
Yeah.
it scares me, and
Right, exactly. At
yeah,
first it's frightening, of
yeah,
course.
it's frightening, and it's the stillness is actually the most peaceful and tranquil and liberating space to be in. What where the fear exists is in the ego, because it's actually the death of the ego, and the ego is afraid of stillness because it loses its identity. People are afraid to see or find something in there. And I think that's a really healthy place to start exploring. If we're afraid of, this is what I take my clients through. If you're afraid of that, what is it you're afraid of? And we need to look at that. We need to not run from it. We need to face it. What are you afraid to see? And maybe that shadow side of you is something, because my shadow side, it's, it still hangs around. Every time I look behind me, there it is still. It's like, why are you still following me? It's like, and we got to learn to live with that and look at that and um, have a healthy relationship with that and start to not run from it or medicate or self-medicate ourselves from it.
Yeah, to numb out. You got to go through it, you know.
Mm.
It's that what do they say? We have to feel in order to heal.
Ah, yes, so true. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I love
yeah,
that. Feel
yeah.
to heal. Mm.
Feel to heal, dancer.
That's like
Now,
a that's a good bumper sticker for my car. I'm gonna have to get that made up.
goodness. And so you also created an amazing documentary called The Portal. And what inspired you to do that and bring it out to the world? Because that's a huge project that you took upon. That I
Yeah,
think is part of dharmic kind of
yeah, bit of
path.
madness, I think. So never doing that again. One of the toughest
Never
things I've
say
ever done.
never. Never say never.
Yeah, true, true. Yeah, look, it's an honor to have it out in the world. It was a really challenging experience and time for me going through that, I must admit. And um, yeah, it was I didn't realize how hard making a film about meditation was going to be. But yeah, what inspired me was that I had a vision and a mission with the Stillness Project to inspire people to meditate. And on the back of the secret really, the film and book, it really affected me. I was like, wow, this was the first time we'd seen a documentary that wasn't about whales or sharks or trees, or it was the first time we saw a really motivational, spiritual sort of documentary. That was, they weren't really out at that point in time, and that was kind of the first of that genre. And it managed to take a very esoteric subject matter, the law of attraction, and integrate it into the households of the world. Like, everyone knew of the secret. And I was like, wow, like this was phenomenally big. And I thought that no one had really done that with meditation. So I thought the secret was good because it showed us that if you think of something, and it didn't really go deeper into the mechanics of that, it's just think of something and it will appear, which was quite simplified. But it worked for that time, and that's why it was so successful, because it was so simple. But I thought that they were missing an ingredient of you need to get into the vibration of something. And how do you get into the vibration of something? You need to get into that de-excitation. And I thought meditation was a thing that really, I could make a documentary about that. So that's what inspired me to make the film and use that as a mechanism to reach the masses and start changing people's ability to see that crisis is just a process to get us through the chrysalis, and how meditation can help us in that transformation.
The meditation is step one
Yeah.
before I mean, we have the universal laws, right? The law of attraction, the law of resonance, dissonance, polarity. There's so many, right? But the meditation is actually the key to finding your own soul's vibration. And therefore, then you can attract what it is you desire. Like everyone at that time had like a billion vision boards. Oh, come to my vision board party, vision board, vision board. And then you're like, I made a vision board. How come it's not happening? Well, I don't think, tender love wants to come when you're like this. Nobody wants to like do with that. Like, like I want this. It really has to come from like a place of softness, of actually what I think meditation does also. That's why I love your documentary so much. It brings you to your authentic neutral place of the zero field, but it's authenticity. It's your one with the source.
Yeah, we wanted to change people it was very difficult to get what we wanted to achieve. And what we wanted to achieve was to actually move people through a vibrational journey in the
Mm.
film. And we do that through a number of different mechanisms. And, we start, and a lot of people struggle with the first 20 minutes. I struggle with the first 20 minutes. I'm like, oh, I wish we'd done that differently. But there's a reason why, is because we wanted to start where people are at, which is stressed. And the first 20 minutes is a bit uncomfortable.
Yeah, of
And
course.
and we're moving them from a state to another state through the film. And we use binaural beats actually in the film.
Yeah.
People don't realize that, but there's some very subtle binaural beats sort of from halfway through. And then we slow down the scenes and we start changing the quality and the nature of what we're talking about. And we change the music in the film. And we use particular practices, even a short meditation. In the cinemas, when we use it, it's a different cut for the cinemas. In the cinemas, we have a 5-minute meditation where that swirling figure is a subliminal meditation, because people can't help but keep watching it. And they watch it and watch it and watch it. And in the film, in the cinema, where you've got nowhere else to go, you can't pick up your phone, you can't go out and get some popcorn, you can't go to the fridge and get some ice cream. And so it's a longer period of time. We knew that when people in their lounge rooms, we couldn't have it that long. So we shortened it, I think, down to 30 seconds or 60 seconds. But this swirly thing, the team came up with this really clever way. We're trying to work out how to incorporate a meditation into the film. And so they use this swirly image that just got fainter and fainter and fainter when we put some subtler vibration binaural beats in there. And it's really quite powerful at centering people's attention onto that
Yeah.
and putting them into a meditative state.
No, that's a great hypnosis technique.
Yeah, a little hypnosis. Yeah.
It's better than TikTok and Instagram and scroll, 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 scroll. It's no, that's absolutely brilliant. And with the binaural beats and everything like that, it's just the perfect it's almost like the perfect, blanket that newborns get swaddled with. That's what it feels
Mm,
like. It's very
yeah,
nurturing.
nice.
So Tom, it was such a pleasure connecting with you today. I know it's like 6 o'clock in the morning, where you're in Australia, and my heart appreciates yours and the work that you're doing, for so many people. I love that you're like a dedicated family man, and a householder like me that knows it's like about the balance of living a real quote unquote life of marriage and love and kids. And I'm with my partner for 30 years, like I said. I know you're also I know the same. And balancing that through the ups and downs, and still following the path of your heart. So thank you, thank you, thank you for being here today and sharing your story. How can we all get in contact with you?
Well, thank you. First of all, it's been an honor and always a great joy to be in your company. And yeah, it's really wonderful for having everyone sharing and listening in and sharing space with us. So thank you for joining in, everyone. They can find me at Instagram. It's a great place. I really like that portal for connecting with people. I don't know what it is. I find it quite personal. So I love to receive messages, and I respond to all my messages. So they can message me at Tom Cronin on Instagram, just one word, TomCronin. And then my website's the same, tomcronin.com. So those are the two places probably easiest to find me. Of course, I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook and all those other places, but that's probably the easiest too.
Amazing. And you have to let me know when you're coming to the States, and we will.
Yeah, I'm actually there in July. We've just locked it in yesterday. So July the 24th to the 27th, we're going to
Okay,
be in Austin, Texas, running a 4-day retreat. It's going to be really beautiful. It's going to be a little bit hot, everyone. So sorry about that. But we'll be inside. It'll be air conditioning, and in the breaks, you can go to the pool and have a swim. But we'll be in Austin, Texas at Lakeway Resort on the 24th to the 27th for a beautiful, deep immersion into meditation, yoga, and breath work.
amazing. I look forward to that. So have a happy, happy holiday,
You
happy
too.
New Year, many blessings, and thank you so much.
My pleasure.
Namaste.